This video is brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions. This video is also brought to you by Kempower, the reliable, quick, and scalable EV charging solution for everyone and everywhere. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and we are just about a day away, even less than that, from the full reveal of the new 2025 facelifted Porsche Taycan. And of course, I'm going to have a full tour of this car coming for you. I've had a chance to film everything you want to know. But at least in this video, I thought it's cool. I had a bit of a sneak preview with the Porsche folks to charge it. I've already done the full range test. You would have seen that one on this channel where I did like a, not a typical out of spec 70 mile per hour test. I wasn't, their conditions weren't right to do that. So I actually went as far as I could on one charge and hypermiled it. And we did 465 miles or just about 750 kilometers on one charge in the new Taycan. But today, it's not about the range. We've already posted that video. This is all about the new monster, insane, crazy, new era charging curve. I mean, you guys know I love charging electric cars. I love fast charging electric cars, but I've never seen anything like this. Truly never seen anything like this in my life. So I'm ready to present to you all of the data I've gathered by charging the new Porsche Taycan from 0 to 100% and all the little nitty gritty details that we can pull out of this test. So let's get into it, charging up the new facelifted Porsche Taycan. Well, first what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about the car that I was driving, and then I'll walk you through the testing procedures. I'll show you the full charging curve in real time with me throughout this video. And then afterwards, I've already plotted all of the data on our fantastic, awesome Out of Spec Studios website, which if you don't want to watch the whole video, we post all the charging curves of all the cars that we test on that website. It's still a work in progress. We're still dialing in the details. We're still dialing how do we show all the testing procedures and all these things to everyone. So bear with us, but at least the new Taycan's curves are in there and the old Taycan's curves are in there, and there's a bunch to talk about. So I think first, let's talk with what we can say about the new Taycan. Now, I am posting this video still ahead of the official reveal of the new car, and there's so much more information to come the following day after this video goes live. But ultimately, what you need to know is there are two battery packs on offer. We tested the large battery pack, which we already know is a bigger battery than the outgoing car, because if you watched our range test, we had a very high 90 kilowatt hour usable coming out of it. I can't tell you the exact quoted, stated usable capacity, but I was able to pull 96 kilowatt hours out of that rear-wheel drive car, plus or minus based off of our data. And of course, while charging it, you'll notice that we add a lot more energy than the previous Taycan. So I think we can comfortably say, without breaking any embargoes, we know the new Taycan has a bigger battery than the outgoing car. Now, the outgoing Taycan, I've already done so much with that car. We broke the Cannonball record years ago. It was a car built for fast traveling, 270 kilowatt charging. It would hold full power from basically 3% to 47%, and it would never hit a ledge. It just ripped all the way up top. And it's truly the benchmark. Truly the benchmark. It adds more energy in 15 minutes through our 10% challenge than any other car I've tested. And now there's a new one that can do way more. I mean, the only benchmark is itself, which is cool. Now, in terms of competitors in this segment, Lucid charges faster, 351 kilowatts I've seen on Lucid, but the curve, at least in the existing cars that I've had a chance to charge, isn't great. And I know certain models, like maybe the Sapphire and the Grand Touring Performance, they have a little bit better curve. I don't think they have a curve like what you're about to see here with the Taycan, though. I mean, this is going to be totally mind-blowing, what you're about to watch. So, what else is out there? I mean, EQS, 400-volt system car, some others. We know this Taycan is a, of course, an 800-volt system architecture. It pulls 400 amps from the charger, and it pulls 400 amps from well, we'll analyze the curve together and I'll let you know everything. There's really, really lots of info here. So I'm going to try and keep this short, keep this sweet, because I want everyone to experience the charging curve. So what I did was I went on, not the video that you saw, but the day before the range test, I went on like a wet weather drive, I guess, to San Diego and back with the Porsche engineers. And it was supposed to be a range test, but the weather was so bad, so I didn't even bother, making a video out of it or anything like that. But I learned a lot, spent time with my friend Kevin Geek, who's responsible for the Taycan project. So shout out to Kevin for being so freaking awesome and giving me so much information so I can make better videos for you guys about this J1 electric platform and this J1-2 or J1AP as it's named. So, okay, so I drove it down to San Diego and back, and then the whole return back up to LA was getting the car in the right parameters for a range test. Now, Porsche hasn't done a ton of 0 to 100% testing. Most of the industry standard, especially within Volkswagen Group, is from 10 to 80% testing. So that's where the car is optimized for. They say the car's really optimized from about 5 to 70% if you want to like maximize the road trip as much as possible. That's what Kevin was telling me, at least during this program. But I wanted to, of course, get the initial 0 to 100 curve. And it was really interesting because we were having some chats in the cars with the guys back in Germany that were simulating the charging events and saying, okay, here's the exact temperature you want the battery at to get the best performance out of it. And we settled in on wanting the battery pack at 71 degrees Fahrenheit to start the charging test, 71, 72. And if I put in 71 F2C, because my calculations are wrong, they wanted just about 21 and a half to 22 degrees Celsius on arrival. Now that's starting dead because you want the battery just cold enough, or I should say at the coldest possible temperature to still accept full charge. The reason is you want as much thermal runway, thermal headroom, so that throughout the charging session, you're not going to smoke the battery pack, because this thing is pumping in so much juice. And just like the previous Taycan, and you'll see it throughout here, the maximum operating temperature of the battery pack is 55 degrees Celsius. Now, I think I can tell you without breaking any embargo that the AC compressor sounded different during this test. So I'm sure there are updates there that I will be able to tell you about in just a few hours after this video comes. But there are significant enhancements under the hood. But certainly if you're going to do a deep charging session, you still can smoke the thermals on this thing, but it's not that bad. I don't think a normal person's going to run into it. If you start at 5% or 10% SOC, I think you'll have a fantastic charging curve with no thermal limits. So what I did was, following Kevin's guidelines, I got the car manually preconditioned. It also automatically preconditioned, but by manually preconditioning it, you can drive the car in a way to adjust the battery pack temperature. We had to do this on the Cannonball because our PCM wasn't working, and so we had to manually precondition the car and set our own arrival temperature. What's nice about Taycan is it gives you the temperature in the car. And for most people, you'll just select the charging station in the screen. The car will do everything it needs to do to prepare for fast charging. By the way, most of the preconditioning in this car is cooling down rather than heating up. The initial charge, it's got to heat up for, and I'll be able to tell you more about that, of course, later on. But most stop to stop, it's going to be bringing the temperature down so that when you are juicing really fast, again, you have that enough thermal headroom so you don't smoke the battery, so you don't thermal derate during the charging session. That's what I mean by smoke the battery. I mean, it's not a great term, is it? Nothing actually smokes, but you get the idea. So let's analyze the curve, So starting off, I have the car at 0% state of charge. I basically parked it at 2%, ran the heater maxed out, drained it to 0. Now you'll notice I'm plugging into an Electrify America charging station. The test that I did here is on an Electrify America BTC 350 kilowatt charger. It was one of the paired units, but the other unit was blocked off. I'll have another story coming on that. We kind of caused a disaster in LA where Porsche basically blocked off 2 very needed public DC fast charging stations and caused a line at the charger so we could charge these cars up. I've never felt so, awkward, like rolling up in this prototype car and being like, oh no, all these people in line can't charge, but I'm about to go plug this thing in and get a video. I have another piece of content coming on this because I think it was really Oof, not a good look, I'll put it that way. So anyway, I needed to test the charging performance of the car, so that's what we're doing. We're not here evaluating charging networks or anything. We're just looking at what the Taycan can do when you get it at a charger that can deliver max power. So I plugged in at 0%, battery pack at 71 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll notice on the display, it shows the maximum kilowatt charging rate. What this is actually pretty interesting. This is the instantaneous max power available if you were to plug in right away. That is everything you can get out of it if you plug in immediately. And that doesn't mean 5 seconds into the charging session, 30 seconds into the charging session. This is an immediate plug-in. So I'm going to make some room for the charging over here. Let's hit play and watch what happens. Boom. So plugging in, connecting, initiation goes. Seems like a quicker handshake than before. You can see charging power ramping up. We're at 290 kilowatts right off the bat, and it's ripping. Now, you'll notice a discrepancy between the screen on the EA charger and the car, and I'll get to that in a moment. But look at this. 5 minutes, we're at 25%. We've added 30 kilowatt hours in 6 minutes. It's unbelievable. 320 kilowatt charging. That peak speed really happening in that 30 to 40% region, peaking at 334, 335 kilowatts delivered. Now, the screen on the car is what's going into the battery. It's still 300 kilowatts at 60%. And I'm going to pause it here at 62. This, you'll notice a drop immediately at 62. But you'll also notice the battery pack temperature is pretty toasty. Now, the ideal point as to when the car should dip below 300 kilowatts is actually right around 65% state of charge. So we may have plugged in a little bit early, but basically it held 300 kilowatts, over 300 kilowatts for 12 minutes, maybe 11 minutes because it did take that first couple percent to shoot right up. But that's insane. That is unheard of. I mean, we just that's all you need a charging session for. You should never really charge past 65% on a road trip. Just unplug and head to the next. And because the car is so efficient, as I showed you in the previous video, and because it can hold that power deeper into the pack, you'll have some big freaking runs. I mean, 65 kilowatt hours, all of that delivered in 12 minutes. That's insane. Let's continue. So we're 63% ramping along, just sitting at 200 kilowatts now. Still not bad. Again, I'm not sure how much of this is thermals, how much of it is that's the programmed curve. I can tell you that the engineer said, okay, other than us derating at 62 instead of 65%, everything else looked pretty normal. It dips at 80%, comes down, but it's still doing 200 kilowatts to high 70%, and then it meanders its way up top. And by meandering, I mean it's still doing 90 kilowatts at 85%, which for those of you who know electric cars is pretty rare. So an absolute monster charging curve. 25 minutes, we've delivered 94 kilowatt hours to the car. You can see when the charging speed's slow, the battery pack temperatures are coming down here a little bit. And, we're of course up above 90% state of charge. So just to give you a little bit more information on this charging display, you have a couple different indications. So the whole right side of the display is temperature, of course. The target charge reached at will tell you, of course, I had the car set at 100%. That'll tell us what time it'll be done. But that will also sometimes say Porsche charging planner active or just charging planner active. That means that the battery's preconditioning for the next charger. When you see that text, also on the left side, you'll notice the 26 kilowatts up top is green. When the message is green, it means that the car is getting everything it wants from the charger. So not once throughout this session on this EA BTC unit did we have any derating of the charger of any kind. This was what the car wanted all through. Otherwise, the text would have gone gray. And there is a bar that shows what the vehicle's request is when it goes gray versus green. And it's actually on that left bar where it's a minuscule green thing right now. But you'll have a dark gray line that fills in the vehicle request and then a green one that comes up to match it. And if, again, the green one is there, you won't even see the dark gray below. But if you're plugging into a 50 kilowatt charger, as an example, and the car wants 300, you'll just see a huge gray line as to what the vehicle could accept and what the charger is actually giving you. I love this because there's so many questions about, is it the charger that's slowing me down? Is it the car? Is it the temperature? There's so many variables that go into charging, and Porsche basically says, no, it's us or it's the charger. And here's the definitive proof. I love this. This is amazing. Now, of course, is this a representative charging experience to what you will have in the public? Well, from the car side, yes. From the infrastructure side, this is always the big question. Do we have the infrastructure to support high power charging like this? Now, I'd like to say yes, and I'm sure it's gotten better because Signet Surge is now fixed. But I think time will tell. Of course, this was a site that EA closed down just for this Porsche program. They monitored the chargers, and it was very much not me just rolling up to a random site. This was me testing the car, so it didn't matter. I just wanted to show the car's capabilities. But the whole public interaction portion will have some, have some conversations about in the near future. So ultimately, Taycan charges like an absolute monster. I mean, 0 to 50% is, 9 minutes? But it just ticks from 9 to 10 minutes over. The previous car would do that as well. It's almost like the time to charge is very similar to the previous car, except this does seem a little bit fatter up top, and it still holds full power. Again, ideally to 65%. In our case, 62%. It tapered from 310 kilowatts at 62% down to that 200 range, and then sat at 200 basically to 80, and then from 80, it walked its way down to 0 at 90. You'll notice the car had errored out at 99%, maybe some communication issue, something going on up top, or maybe they just have a little bit of interop bug where the vehicle's AC compressor was absolutely ripping, and the charger, I think, was just compensating for the AC compressor, and the car's like, oh, actually, I'm at 100. You can stop now. So I think that may have thrown an error. But ultimately, I have two curves on the website that I want to analyze for you. So let's pull up out of specstudios.com. I'm going to go to charging test, and then you'll see a list of all the vehicles that we have available. I'm going to narrow it down to sedans, and I'm just going to check the new Porsche Taycan, two ones that we have right now. There's a yellow line and a green line, and we have to find a better way of doing this, but I just put this together for the video, and we'll get it sorted in a little bit. But essentially, the yellow line is what's being delivered from the charger to the car. And again, we saw a peak of 300, well, at least at this one, 329 kilowatts, but there was 334 on the screen somewhere. We just sometimes don't log every percentage point. I can ask Ryan maybe to update this a little bit so we show the highest within a percentage region. I don't know. We're close enough. But big boy power. And it's not like it peaks and comes down. It rides its way up 400 amps, and then that 30 to 40% region, that's when it really has 400 amps at max voltage, and then it has to start pulling down the current above there. There's a hard drop again at 62% in our test, and then walks its way basically down from there. The green line is what's going into the battery pack on the Taycan. There are a lot of losses at high charging speeds like this, mostly due to the current. So 400 amps, there'll be losses, but also the cooling on the vehicle, as well as the other ancillary components, pumps, etc., that are running on the Taycan. So we know that curve. We just saw that curve. It's a fat curve. You get the peak and the plateau all in one. I mean, you really can have your cake and eat it too. I've never truly seen anything like this. Let's compare it to the old Taycan. So I'm going to go and find the... What? It was just in here. Why is it no longer in here? Old Taycan, 2022 Porsche Taycan is in here, but it's maybe under a different category. So let's just do it this way then. We'll put the Taycans, we'll put the Taycan Cross Turismo, and I don't think I have updated it yet, but I did a small battery Taycan, a pre-facelift one, and yeah, it's not in here. Ryan hasn't put it in yet, but that's okay. We're talking big battery to big battery. On the graph, this is a massive difference. Not only does it have a higher peak, it holds that peak longer. From basically 75% and above, 78% above, they're similar. But the old Taycan was already a 12-minute stop car. That was a 10-minute, 12-minute charge car, and boom, you're back on the road. And now it makes that look slow. It's crazy. So who's going to benefit from this? So there'll be a lot of comments that say, that's great, but who actually road trips their Porsche? You would be surprised how many Taycans, especially in Europe, but here in the US as well, go on major road trips. That's what this car is built for, especially the Cross Turismo. Load up the dog, load up your family, drive as fast as you can, charge as fast as you can, and charger hop and rip and rip and rip. It is the new cannonball machine. It actually, what will be really interesting is to put this up against the Lucid stuff, because the Lucid, I still think probably is more efficient and certainly has it definitely has more range. And so, we're getting into the fun games, the upper echelon of these long distance machines as to, do you go worse charging curve, bigger capacity, more efficient, that would be the Lucid, or maybe smaller battery, crazy charging with the Taycan. I don't know what the real answer would be. My preference is always fast charging. I'll take fast charging over anything else. That is the most important metric to me in an electric car. Repeatable, fast charging. There's no DC counter in this car. You can DC charge it as much as you want. There's no battery-friendly quick charging in this thing. Porsche said they didn't need it. They had it in the old one. They found out, the cells don't degrade. That's crazy, because so many comments when I posted this were saying, oh, doesn't the Taycan degrade? How do they hold up over time? Porsche said they've been buying back a couple Taycans that have like 300, 400, 500, maybe not 500, but 300,000 or 400,000 kilometers. And they're like, these things are lasting way longer than we expected. We're not even going to put a battery-friendly quick charging mode in this car because it doesn't need it. So that's crazy to me. I just saw Tesla Bjorn post a photo of a BMW that said, oh, you've DC charged too much. You have to let the car sit for 2 days or AC charge for 2 days before we let you DC charge fast again. And I talked to the Porsche guys. I'm like, does that happen even after like 30 megawatt hours or something crazy you flow through this battery? And they're like, nope, no limit. I mean, they said as the vehicle ages, your curve might change a little bit. Like you may not hold it till 65%. It might come in a little bit. They weren't like, there's no hard limit. They're just like, you just send this thing all you want. And I'm like, that's crazy. So they said they have been trying to beat the crap out of their test cars. They've been doing a ton of road tripping, a ton of DC charging, and it's no degradation as far as they can tell. No abnormal degradation. Of course, every battery will degrade. It's still better to AC charge than DC charge. All the normal principles apply, but it's not like we're going to see potentially rapid degradation with this crazy charging performance. I mean, if you look at the eGMP cars, the Hyundai Kia Genesis stuff, that's a much smaller battery pack doing 240 kilowatts, 235 kilowatts. So you scale that up for the size of this battery. I don't think you're that far out of the region, but it just seems to be the perfect mix of curve, thermal management, efficiency of the car to make this truly the ultimate road tripper. I can't wait to share the next video with you, my full reveal of the 2025 Taycan, giving you all of the nerdy information that you want to know, all the software changes, all the little things that have gone into it. And so that will be coming on this channel, but I'm glad I was able to bring this sneak preview of charging to you. Thanks to the Porsche team for letting me test this car, drive this car, do the hypermile test, because I thought that was kind of fun. And ultimately, this is the same car I did the hypermile test on. This is where I got this charging data. But I also did cross-reference it with the 3 other prototypes that they had there with the same battery, and the charging was so consistent across all of them. Very consistent. So all I can say is wow. Just wow. Crazy. I don't even... I'm just so excited about, I love fast charging, and this is everything. I did not expect it to be this good. And then I charged it, and I was like, holy crap, we're at 60% and it's still doing 300 kilowatts into the battery. I mean, just wild stuff. Wild stuff. Can't thank you enough for watching. Can't thank Porsche enough for building one hell of a freaking charging monster. And we'll see you on another one again soon. Can't wait to give you all the information in the next video. Bye-bye.